Hey, Creamy here, and today we're going to be doing something different that we haven't actually ever done before on the channel. I've said that a couple of times in the channel's history, but this is definitely going to be a first. It's actually also going to be my first tier list ever on the channel, but we're not going to be doing a tier list of characters because I'm pretty sure a lot of people have already gone into that discussion. I'm going to be talking about something a little bit different, and I'm going to be ranking the OSTs of all of the characters that were released during the Worldwide Download celebration of this year. It totals out to a, you know what, let's just take it from the top, shall we? Hey, Dreamy here, and today we're going to be doing something different that we haven't actually ever done before on the channel, and I've said it a couple times in this channel's history, but this is really something unique, and I've never actually done a tier list on the channel before, so this is also going to be a first, but I'm going to be doing a tier list on the characters of the Worldwide Download celebration of this year. And it's not going to be, you know, I'm not going to be ranking the characters as they are. I'm actually going to be ranking their OSTs, because I think it's a topic worth talking about. There have been a lot of hyped Dokkan OSTs like in the game's history, which is why I think ranking the character OSTs would also make a pretty interesting video overall, and it's definitely going to spark some conversation and discussion, hopefully. So here you can see that I've already got all 4 new LR characters from the celebration already put in here, and you can see that the background there is colored based on their typing. So STR Gohan has a red background, and Fizz Goku has a orange background, not yellow, because it would clash with the text and it might not be able to be read. And you can see Int Broly and Tech Broly as well. And you can see the letters here as well, so you can kind of get an understanding. The I is for intro, the A is for active skill, T is for transformation, R is for revive, S is for standby, and F is for finish skill. And if a character has like different OSTs depending on which finish skill you activate, F1 is for the incomplete version and F2 is for the complete version. I'm going to be talking about them in order, and I don't want to waste too much of your time, so let's just get right into it. I'm going to start off with Tech Broly's intro. And while I'm actually reviewing these characters, I'm actually going to have their OSTs go in the background, so you can kind of get a taste for what I'm talking about. And if you want to check out the kind of clean version where I don't actually talk over, you can actually go and look at the pinned comment in the comment section, because there you can find all of like the links to the extended versions of those OSTs. But one thing to take note just right off the bat is that, sorry, I almost fell out of my chair. One thing to really take note from these, from like the game in general, is that these OSTs can last from a little bit over a minute to, at its shortest, about 30 seconds. I actually did that the wrong way around, damn it. But basically, intros only last for about 30 seconds, and going right into Broly's intro, right? Tech Broly's intro, I'm actually going to give it a B, and you may think that that's a little low. Definitely, I think the OST fits with the moment, and I guess this is a pretty good time, good of a time as any to really go into the discussion of how I'm ranking these OSTs. I'm not just going to be scoring them based on how well they fit the moment and animations, but you know, an OST will get extra points if they can kind of invoke an emotional reaction. That's for like the really hype ones. That's Z tier level stuff. But you know, for songs that kind of have their own flaws, that'll definitely bring them down a few points. With Broly, the OST does fit with his character and with the moment that the animations are trying to show, especially for his intro. It creates a sense that something's really being hidden behind the character, and obviously, when Broly first shows up, you're not going to be transforming with him. You want to make use of that defensive ability that he has, which is why that works so well, because Broly really is hiding a much stronger form in that base form. But the thing that really sucks is that an intro only lasts for about 30 seconds, and it's just way too calm with no build-up. I think as a Dokkan player myself, I've just been experiencing so many, listening to so many OSTs that have a much more faster pace, and definitely a lot more hype, because they represent moments that are a lot more hype. And in this sense, it's just a little bit slow and repetitive. Repetitive in a bad way, because I don't want to hear like the same really that's an awkward beat that doesn't really work on repeat. Quite the bar there. But yeah, I'm gonna giving Broly a B, and he's not on C or F because of that, because like it just fits so well with the moment that it's really undeserving of a low rank. But I don't think it deserves to be fit on A either, because whenever I hear Broly's OST for his intro, it just kind of sucks. I don't really like it. I definitely will admit that there is a personal bias to my ranking, so you can also check the pinned comment down below if you want to redo the tier list in your own design, basically. Moving on to his transformation, because his transformation goes before his active skill, I think I'm actually going to be giving it an A. I honestly think that it's probably one of his the best OST out of the character. Just as a whole, I think it works really well because it has that kind of like start to it, has an intro, and then it immediately switches up to a much faster-paced hype beat that really fits with Broly's character. It fits with like the rushing key that he has, and I think it works well overall. Definitely much better than the intro, which is why I'm giving it an A, but not an S or a Z because it almost feels kind of generic. I think the Dokkan composers have gone out of their way to make such amazing songs in the past that now whenever you hear an OST like Broly's, it feels almost, like I said before, generic and kind of boring in a way. But it's not bad. I do definitely think it fits with the character, and it manages to kind of work with the environment that it creates, because when Broly transforms, he becomes an offensive beast, right? And I think the OST works really well in that regard. It really matches with the kind of moment that you really experience in the game if you're only activating that transformation for the first time ever. And even if you're activating it for the nth time, it definitely does create that atmosphere for the character that just fits really well with his animations. But moving on to his active skill, I'm also going to be giving it an A. I don't really think that it really trumps the transformation much at all, but it is pretty good. And you know, he basically kills Paragus, right, in this animation, which is why, you know, the song is really, it's spooky and it fits the animation. I think it works perfectly fine. And obviously it's not a really strong active skill and not exactly a pretty huge moment. He just gets a bunch of buffs like ki and extra stats, and so again, there's not much of a moment to really recreate, which is kind of a weakness with the character in general. But it's not a bad OST, and it definitely fits with the character. Overall, I'd say Tech Broly definitely managed to output a decent kind of set of OSTs, and none in the C or F tier. I understand that this is quite the jump from C to F, but I do definitely think that Broly manages to kind of... the OSTs are good. It's just that when you compare to some of these other characters that we're going to be talking about later, it just doesn't really deserve to be treated on as it's treated as an OST of the same rank. And if we want to go deeper into discussion with that, we can talk about the Goku and Z Fighters, or Goku, Gohan, and Trunks' OSTs for comparison. First of all, their standby skill, I'm actually giving it the worst, not like the worst rank, like F. No, I'm not going to make this an F tier because it's not. I am going to be putting it in B tier, and worse than Broly's intro, because I don't know, like this is interchangeable in my opinion. You can do this, you can do this, like it's the same. There isn't really much to change there. Nothing too significant, no big difference, because overall it's just, I mean, interchangeable, I guess, their rank. And the reason I say that is because it sounds very sad with like the trumpets, right? But like I said before, so many Dokkan OSTs have that hype and fast pace that when Goku is screaming and he's telling everyone to kind of give him his power and whatnot, and basically it's meant to kind of be a moment where he continues fighting in the state that he is, and you kind of expect there to be a build-up. When I heard it for the first time, I was expecting there to be like a huge drop, similar to how it is with Tech Super Saiyan Goku's Revive OST, and I didn't really get that, and it created a sense of dissatisfaction, and it's just like really unsatisfying in terms of like the kind of moment that it creates. But I guess the finished skills really make up for it. First of all, I'm actually going to be talking about the complete version of the finished skill. I think I'm going to be giving it an S tier. Like I said before, I think it has that kind of trademark Dokkan OST hype, and it is a pretty hype moment, especially considering that this Goku's animation, like the one where he takes everyone's power to punch Broly, we've seen this animation before with the Dokkan original before we ever saw it with Goku, and so finally seeing that moment being represented, having a pretty good OST to go with it, and actually being able to deal a ton of damage to the boss, it's a pretty interesting moment. It's a pretty hype moment, and definitely something worth experiencing for the first time. I've talked about it in previous videos, but I don't actually own any of these characters. So whenever I listen to their OSTs, use their active skills, transformations, and such, it's when I borrow a friend's characters in order to clear certain missions. And definitely this completed version of the finished skill OST is definitely hype, and it fits with the hype moment that it is representing, and it's something that everyone I think has been looking forward to, so it does kind of fit with like the S tier here. As for the incomplete version, I'm going to be putting it in A tier, because because we know that the complete version is better, and we're going to see this with a certain other character, but I can't exactly put them in the same rank. It just doesn't really work. Where I would put them, I'm not exactly sure, honestly. Like, I would actually go like this and just put him in front, because I think Goku definitely deserves it more than Broly. If I can have him move, thank you. There we go. I do think that his finished skills sound a lot better than both of Broly's OSTs, and I don't hate Broly, it's just that this specific unit's OST isn't exactly anything impressive, and this Goku actually does a much better job in terms of finished skills, even if the standby skill may kind of be lagging behind in terms of that listening experience. But moving on to part 2 of the Worldwide Download Celebration, I'm going to be jumping right into Broly. I think we'll start off with Broly, that's the safer option there. We're going to go into the intro first, obviously. I'm actually going to be giving it a B as well. Sorry, that's A. I'm going to be giving it a B tier as well, and I'm actually going to be putting it in the far back, because this is actually one of my least favorite OST. This is actually my least favorite OST within the entire Worldwide Download Celebration of this year, because it's not a bad OST, right? Like, it fits with the moment, it sounds very dramatic, but there's no hype to it, and Broly isn't in base form here. Like, unlike the Tech Broly, where it's not supposed to be intense because Broly hasn't transformed yet, but in this case, Broly has already transformed. Like, you start the fight as Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, so there's really no excuse to make the OST so, like, sad and lacking of really intense musical. I'm not a musician, so it just lacks that intensity that you're supposed to kind of feel as Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, that you kind of get with the active skill and transformation of Tech Broly, that I thought you would be able to experience right off the bat with this Broly's intro, but we get none of that. And so it does create that sense of disappointment, and because it lacks that kind of hype, fast-paced music, it doesn't really work well with 30-second repetition either, so it just kind of sucks for me. I don't really like it personally. Moving on to his active skill, originally I was going to give it a B, but I think after a bit of consideration I'm going to be giving it an A, because the active skill itself is pretty cool, and a lot of people have been saying that it is really similar to AGL Vegeta and Nappa's exchange OST, which after giving it a listen, yeah, it's definitely a little too similar, especially at like the starting parts of it. But it really fits the scene, and while I was going to be really critical of this Broly in terms of like how mid his OSTs are, it's not bad, and I think I shouldn't really be too harsh on him. I don't really think it deserves to be above Broly's active skill. I think these two are very much interchangeable, but in terms of him beating the transformation OST of Tech Broly, I don't really think so. Like, I don't really think it works that way, so I'm going to be putting him there. As for the revival, I think it is much better. It is really fitting for a evil character's revival animation. I guess it just really fits with the moment. It doesn't work too bad with repetition, so you're not going to get sick and tired of listening to it. Overall, I'd say that it actually works pretty well. So I'm going to be putting it in A tier as well, above the active skill, I think, because I was already pretty confident with this rank. After giving it a listen, I just became a lot more confident. Above the active skill, maybe. I think this is also kind of, I guess you can kind of like switch them around, but I don't really think that I don't know, like maybe we can go like this, yeah. This I think this is probably the best way to sort it out. So in Broly not looking too good here, obviously being able to surpass the other characters' weakest OSTs, but nothing too impressive. Luckily though, it's pretty clear that the Dokkan composers, they had a pretty clear goal in mind. They sacrificed Broly's OST quality and overall listening experience to dish out what I'd argue is some of the best Dokkan OSTs that we've had in a while. Starting off right off the bat with Gohan, STR Gohan's standby skill, it's Z tier. Listen, I would hate to be biased like the Dragon Ball Legends developers for Gohan, but I have to admit, it works so well with the repetition. I've checked out some of the comments, and it represents the kind of desperation and will to continue fighting so well. It's split off into two different parts, and when I first activated this Gohan's standby skill, it was so hype, because the beat drop, the kind of tonal shift, it really happened when the Dragon Ball started flying off into the key orbs, and it was really such a moment. I almost had that same reaction that I did with the Blue Bros, right? The Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta from last year's Worldwide Download Celebration. And obviously they are kind of like, they're considered as frauds in the community because they suck overall in terms of like their actual performance in the modern day. But I have to admit that the first time activating their OST, activating their active skill transformation into Vegito Blue, it was a moment, because it had a pretty difficult activation condition, and they managed to actually make it available in like a pretty dire point in the fight, and so it was really, really hype. And the same thing goes for this Gohan, and obviously it's really easy to activate this guy's standby skill. It just works. I think it manages to kind of work with the general quality of Dokkan so well, because like I said before, Dokkan repeats its OSTs, or kind of like runs it on repeat whenever it runs out. So the standby skill lasting for about a minute, the OST I mean, it goes pretty well, and I could listen to it forever. Moving on to the finished skill, I'm actually going to be doing the incomplete version first this time. I'm going to be putting it in S, because I think you all know that the complete version is going to be in Z tier, and the only difference that it has with the complete version is that it's missing the Goku parts of it, but it's essentially the same OST. So it's basically a cut-up version missing some of the best parts of it, which is why I'm putting it in S tier. There's really nothing to kind of like really take away from it, honestly. Like it's very, when you know that it's missing something, it automatically gets downgraded, because it's not much different from the complete version. It just has parts cut out. It's different from this Goku's finished skill OST, because they're actually like instrumentally different. Whereas with this Gohan, they start off almost exactly the same. They actually have like the same like start and end. It's just that it's missing a middle part, not the hairstyle, a middle kind of section of the song that the complete version actually has. Putting it in S tier, obviously, like why are you even like surprised? I'm actually gonna be putting it above the standby skill, even if personally for me, I actually like the standby skill a lot more, the OST a lot more, because it works with repetition really well. You can kind of listen to it on repeat without being bored. Whereas with this, with the complete version of the finished skill, it's definitely more of like a moment or a first time experience, where when you listen to it for the first time, activate that finished skill for the first time and just wipe out a boss, that's definitely like something that you want to experience for the first time again. That's kind of the thing that I definitely got from it. And the OST supports the animation so well. It's really beautiful, especially with the part where Goku flies down, the base Goku. Obviously people have been complaining about base Goku, and it really fits the scene. It works decently well with repetition and the hype that it creates. Like I said before, that kind of emotional response, and this OST definitely has that. Same with the standby. The standby is definitely like really hype, like, oh my gosh, this is about to go down. And with the finished skill OST, you definitely get that sense where, oh, it just went down, you know. The OST fits really well with the moment that it is trying to represent, and overall, I think it is definitely worthy of being in the Z tier, especially because people actually love the animation of the character. The OST manages to complement that so well. But yeah, we've actually run out of things to list here. This is the actual tier list that we've got here. I don't know if you agree with this or not, but yeah, I mean, like, this is about as far as the video is going to go. Personally, I do think that this works just fine. It is a shame that the extreme characters kind of like have really mid OSTs. I wish that they would make much more exciting hype OSTs for these extreme class characters, especially because it's the Broly. And for me personally, I hope that I'm not biased. I hope that me ranking them below these guys is not just because I like the good guys. I do think that Broly's OSTs could have been better, especially the intros, because as you can see here, they kind of suck. And with the standby skill as well, I think they definitely kind of blundered with not having any kind of big musical drop to it. It just kind of stays the same with the trumpets, despite the fact that it's supposed to be kind of like a comeback moment. I do think that's gonna do it for this video though. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy it, and leave a dislike if you didn't. And if you didn't, or even if you did, feel free to tell me in the comment section down below. Maybe you want to talk about what you think about these OSTs. If you agree with my opinion, if you don't agree, maybe I ranked certain characters' OSTs a bit lower than they should be at. So let me know if you or if you have any kind of other criticisms in regards to the video. I definitely tripped up on a few words, and I don't know, I may have made like a couple of mistakes in regards to really talking about these characters' OSTs. So feel free to let me know in the comment section down below. Don't forget to subscribe, because I do think I'm going to be having a bit of extra free time, so I may be able to get a few videos out in like a pretty short period of time. So make sure you do catch those. But yeah, I think this is good for this video. Bye, and thanks for watching.